Step right up, let's take the dive. Crypto world is coming alive. From XRP to the blockchain beat. Join the crew where pioneers meet. Got builders, dreamers paving the way. Multi-chain vibes, we're here to stay. Wanna know? Don't wait, let's go. Dip a toe, join the Web3 flow. Take a step, explore the scene. Dip a toe, show, living the dream. From the ledger to the stars we climb. Crypto's future, it's our time. Dip a toe, yeah, take that chance. Join the vibe, let's crypto dance. To crypto dance. Faces of crypto, stories we share. Early adopters, they're everywhere. From XRP to the Web3 wave. Bold moves, only we're here to pave. Melissa and Simon, they light the way. Every week it's a crypto play. Wanna know? Don't wait, let's go. Dip a toe, join the Web3 flow. Take a step, explore the scene. Dip a toe, show, living the dream. From the ledger to the stars we climb. Crypto's future, it's our time. Dip a toe, yeah, take that chance. Join the vibe, let's crypto dance. Let's crypto dance. No advice, just a spark to ignite. Do your research, keep your vision tight. Community strong, we're building the way. Dip a toe show, here to stay. Take a step, explore the scene. Dip a toe, show, living the dream. From the ledger to the stars we climb. Crypto's future, it's our time. Dip a toe, yeah, take that chance. Join the vibe, let's crypto dance. Don't take a chance, don't be shy. Crypto's calling, we're reaching the sky. Join the movement, come take a look. Web3's rising, the world's been shook. Ooh.
The world's been shook. Ooh. Welcome to Dip a Toe, Faces of Crypto. Tonight we're going to pull back the curtains on the educators, creators, and voices who are shaping how millions of people understand this space. Simon is working overtime tonight and he's not going to be joining us, but we do have some friends in the audience already. Who do we got in here? We've got William. Oh, DCA Crypto Dave is first, always. Dip a toe, let's go. William says, good evening to the best community on planet Earth. Dip a toe for the win. Sending flowers. I appreciate your flowers, Mr. William. And of course, we got Mr. Korn, Ryan. Thank you for coming this evening. And Stone says, start the music. We got a little Texas Guns action in the house tonight. And I always say this wrong. Conflict. I think that is. I think I said it right. Holy smokes. Let's go. Florida Man Landscaping. Stoked for this episode. Great guest on the legendary Dip a Toe show. We appreciate you so much. We got a chat. Miss Kita Kita's in the house. Gotten a lot of good things going on with Miss Kita. If you guys aren't following her, you definitely need to. Miss Simon Says Crypto's in the house. Thank you for coming, Megan. Vax, what is it? Oh, what is it? Vax V4X. V4X XRPL is in the house. Guys, thank you so much for coming. I really appreciate it. If you're out there, share this out. This is going to be a fantastic episode. We have some great guests in the house this evening. And, guys, crypto isn't just charts, price prediction, or hype. It's technology that's quietly transforming the world behind the scenes. Tokenization, real-world utility, digital identity, global payments, and the way value moves across borders. And the people who explain these shifts every day are the ones helping the rest of us make sense of it all. So tonight We're going to go deeper. We're going to talk about the future of finance, the psychology of investing, the rise in digital assets, and what mass adoption actually looks like. And we're going to do it with three of my favorite creators who each bring a completely different lens to the conversation. First up, a lot of you guys already know she's been on the show before. We have Brooke Odyssey. Brooke is a rising Web3 creator whose empowering, future forward perspective has made her a standout voice in the XRP community. She was even featured in the XRP movie, XRP Unleashed, if you guys remember. She likes to blend crypto education with big picture thinking about the shifts happening in our world. Next up, we have our friend Dan, who I met a couple years ago. Dan, Caveman Fantasy. He is a business owner and crypto investor who's built a following by making digital assets simple, relatable, and accessible. He's known for straight talk education and community collabs with other TikTok educators. And finally, we have someone new to me, Mr. Blockchain Bully, the bullhorn himself. He's known for his high energy teaching style and his relentless focus on one thing: utility, real value, real use cases, real adoption. So this is not going to be a price talk show at all. No hype. This is a conversation about the future and the people that are helping us understand it. So without further ado, let's get into it. Let's meet these faces of crypto. I am by myself, so it always takes me a little bit to get them in here, but let's do it. We've got them here. Welcome to the Dip a Toe Show, guys. How are you doing today?
Doing well. How are you, Melissa?
I'm fantastic now that I got a full stage with beautiful faces and friends. I'm excited to have you here, and we've got 26 people watching, so this is going to be just a fantastic show. And with as much knowledge as you guys have, I'm sure that this 2 hours is going to fly by. So I want to get right down to it. Before we really dive into some deeper conversations, I do want to get to know you. So before we dive into the tokenization and the utility and the mass adoption, I want everybody watching to get a feel for who you guys are as people. So I'm going to start with a quick get to know you round, about 5 minutes each. Brooke, I'm going to start with you. You talk a lot about awakening, awareness, and the bigger shifts that are happening in society. What moment in your life made you start publicly speaking on crypto and the future of finance?
Well, it's been an interesting journey, and thank you for having me on to talk about it. Um, I think it started, so my journey has been about almost 20 years of studying the global financial system. And so, really, my area of expertise is macroeconomics. And it, like 6 years ago, was when I actually came across the technology, and it was XRP, understanding money and understanding history and how history shifts off of these monetary resets. Um, I saw that this shift would happen again. And before anyone was attacking anyone, I said, I think we're going to go do one of these shifts again. And just like we had the Bretton Woods on the other end of World War II, on the other end of this is where we get this crypto blockchain adoption because it solves so many issues of money. And so I was going to like the financial professionals in my life and other people, smart people who I knew, and they would not listen. I mean, it was so far out of their purview. It's almost like they just stuck their fingers in their ears and wouldn't hear anything. And so um, it lit a fire underneath me because I felt ignored. And so I said, I think I know what's happening, and I'm going to start a channel, and I'm just going to document this shift and see how right or wrong I am. And after 6 years, I haven't gotten more wrong. So,
I think that's fantastic. You know, there is nothing like somebody challenging you. Either they ignore
yep.
you or they say that you're wrong for you to fight back even more and say, no, I'm going to show you why you're wrong
Mhm.
and you should be dipping your toes into this as well. So you have a macroeconomic background. Um, with that type of mindset, uh, how did that kind of click for you when when you started seeing some of these shifts? Like, what were some telling signs to you that actually made you go, "Uh-oh, this is something really big happening"?
Well, in 2008, I was in university and I was learning about that financial crisis while undergoing it. And after you unpack that financial crisis, you realize that nothing was really solved in that financial crisis. Everything was pretty well just taped over. And so the financial system essentially died then. And so whenever I came across XRP, I was like, oh, it solves so much frictions of money within the system. I'm like, oh, I could definitely see this happening in a financial collapse. And and so it also was going through the pandemic and understanding money and money printing and how much money we printed during that time. We printed 40% of the money that has ever existed within a 2-year period. And then we printed 80% of of existing money within that 2-year period. So, and then watching the escalation to war, that is also money printing and understanding debt levels. It was very clear to me that we would encroach upon the sovereign debt crisis, and this would be the end of fiat currency. So that's really kind of the moment where it's like, okay. And of course, I was 6 years early, so I'm sounding like a nut job telling everyone
Right?
this is coming and it's gonna shift and it's gonna shift off a blockchain, and now it's happening in rapid speed. So
Yeah. Anybody that looked at the, like, what is it called, the four turnings or whatever,
yes. Mhm.
whenever you kind of like study on that, a lot of the folks that did study that kind of saw this coming too. Might not have known even about the digital asset space itself, but they knew something was coming, because as many of us know, the money system was never like expected to last more than 80 or 100 years, right? I mean, it's designed to fail basically, in my opinion. So
It
yeah,
is.
I'm super excited to have you on. I thank you
Okay.
so much. Let's get to Dan, Caveman Fantasy. Your turn. You're a business owner and investor. How did your real world business experience shape the way you approached crypto? Boy, that's a hard question coming right out the gate.
Wowzer. Well, thank you first and foremost for having us on here. I really appreciate it. If is it just me or do you have the best hair in crypto, Melissa?
I love you for saying that. Thank you
Just
so much.
saying, right?
I
But
appreciate that.
regarding your question about like me being a business owner, I've been a serial entrepreneur my entire life. There's some people out there who work a 9 to 5, who do really really well for themselves, turn off at 5 o'clock, and that's it. That's all. It's never been me. The idea of being able to having to work for somebody else is mind boggling in my mind. Not only because like I don't like I to a degree I have a hard time listening to certain people, but to the other degree I just want to have my own freedom and responsibilities and to have be empowered myself. So I think first and foremost for me it was really that mindset that brought me into the idea in the world of investing. Um, with the and like I share this openly. I come from extremely humble beginnings. A single mother, the church fed us. We had to move like every single month almost. Like there's so that what happens for me, that old saying where it's like hard times create hard people create soft times. So, okay, and then right. So for me, I was formed in that. Love my mom to death. She's an amazing woman and she's so strong for being able to do what she went through. But for me, it was like, for my family, I want more. I want to be able to provide more. And so entrepreneurship, starting my own businesses, all of which mostly failed. I think I'm on like number 4 or 5 now, 5 and 6, I should say, or 4 and 5. And so and then when I started my the HVAC business, I in 2016 I started investing. I had surplus money and I wanted to invest in it. And so stocks, obviously, I started doing, and Bitcoin was my first crypto that I invested in, and Litecoin, which became a stable coin, but that's besides the point. So I'm the guy who, bought Bitcoin in 2016 because I won a poker tournament and there was a Bitcoin machine. And I'm like, I've got all this
Let's
money.
go.
Let's invest it. And then ended up selling it to put it into a stock market, which looked like an idiot. But like fast forward to like 2024, 2026 in that range. I didn't, the ebbs and flows of business. I didn't necessarily have the money for like the Facebook or the Meta. I didn't have the money. I wasn't available for Tesla. I didn't have the money for the big ones like Amazon, all the ones that we all know and love now. And so when I realized that this was an opportunity for potential of life changing money if we don't screw it up,
Yeah.
the key. And I think for me it was like guns blazing, full steam ahead. This is what I'm going to do to the best of my ability. Problem is, I didn't come to X because when I first came to X, and this is no like shade on anybody here who's watching, but all I saw was like a lot of people trying to yell at each other and big energy, and I was
Yeah.
like, whoa, this is not for me. So then I went over to TikTok, which again I didn't think was going to be for me either because in my mind at the time TikTok was like girls dancing and not for me. But turns out there was a crypto community. Unfortunately, the crypto community, it felt a little bit shilling. It felt a little bit like scammy. It felt a little bit not what I was looking for. And so I was trying to weave my way through the crowds to see who I could actually get information from, who had some good ideas, who could challenge me. And I did find one of the first people I just met. One of the first people I met was Brooke Odyssey, who's here soon, and and we instantly gravitated towards her because of her mindset and like the forward thinking process, and challenging the beliefs of what you think is real. And so for me, I was like, yes, absolutely, this is something I want to surround these are my kind of people that I want to surround myself with. But I watched people for about a year, and then I was like, you know what? There's a little too much bullshit, and so it's time for me to come out of behind the curtain, and because I'm a person who researches all day every day, uh, I was going to share whatever information that I gathered, and hopefully people were receptive to it. If they weren't, they weren't. I mean, that's up to them. So
Yeah.
that was kind of my journey, to be honest.
I agree with you. There are so many people out there. There's a lot of shillers. I call it graduation, right? When somebody dips their toe into it, most likely they're going to fall across somebody that is like, it's going to go to the moon, or this is like your last chance to get in, all these types of things. And it's like they're very good at what they do with creating excitement and all of that stuff. And I remember days of just listening to these shows while I'm getting ready for work, and like you start listening to them after a while, you're like, this sounds a little bit too shill for me. I started seeing patterns of people promoting certain products and things, and I'm like, yeah, that's not for me. That's not what I think we should be doing. If we truly want to educate others in the space and inspire them to dip their toe a little deeper, we need to go a little deeper, right? Rather than the surface level BS that we hear from some of these really popular, seemingly popular, just because they have so many followers doesn't mean that they actually have that many followers. I'll just say that publicly. But before we get to Bullhorn, what was the moment that was there a specific moment that you realized that crypto wasn't just a trend, but something that you needed to really understand deeply, more deeply? Was there a eureka moment for you, Dan?
For me?
Yeah.
Oh, I'm sorry. A eureka moment. I'm so sorry. I got caught up on bully. What? Could you please repeat that? I apologize.
I was just saying, like, was there a moment where you really thought I need to dive a little bit deeper into this whole crypto thing, like something that stood out to you where you're like, you know what, this is something that needs more of my attention.
Okay, so to be honest, and it's probably most of your viewers, it was actually XRP for me.
Yeah.
Because it's so polarized. Because I have friends who are extremely intelligent. I hope I'm one of them, and who've invested in this asset for reasons that we all know. And then I have other friends who are like, "Are you an absolute idiot? What are you doing?" And so it's like you're being pulled left and right. It's like, well, I have to stop. I have to stop listening to everybody and just say, why is my investment thesis, why is it sound, and why does it make sense? And if it does make sense, you don't get swayed by the ebbs and flows of the market or by the people who are in your ear constantly and telling you that, like, you're, and I was literally on someone's live yesterday who was like saying, I don't want to say it. Anyways, really negative things about XRP and XRPL and Ripple, and not.
Uh-oh, we lost him. As soon as he said Ripple, he got booted.
That's it. He's done.
Yeah, you're done, Caveman Fantasy. This is not a fantasy. When he comes back, we'll bring him back. But until he comes back, Blockchain Bully, welcome to the Dip and Toe Show. It's so nice to meet you, sir. Please tell us a little bit about yourself and what pulled you into the whole crypto education thing.
Yeah, absolutely. I just want to say thank you for hosting me, and I have tremendous respect for my co-host. I really look forward to you guys teaching me and learning with me as well. But my story is a little bit different. I didn't really get into this space because I was looking for a shortcut. I never really bought into that whole traditional financial advice that your parents would give you, which was go to school, get good grades, get a good job, put money in an IRA, and hopefully retire when you were 70. But I realized, and thank God for content creators out there, but I realized that the traditional financial system was changing. And the deeper that I went with that, the more obsessed that I became with understanding how the traditional financial system actually works. I started to learn how the banks were moving money. I was looking at how transactions were being settled, how were assets actually being tokenized, and how could blockchains potentially become part of that infrastructure that can actually be the backbone to the system. And inevitably, that kind of led me into researching partnerships and pilots and policies and government documents, and ideally looking into the projects that were positioning themselves for this evolution. So for me, it was really kind of just paying attention to where the world was going and trying to position myself before the majority actually wakes up to it, and hopefully using the knowledge that I've acquired over the years to position me and my family to kind of have that exposure to what is coming.
Yeah. Have you always been an inquisitive researcher type of person?
Not really. No, I don't have a background in traditional finance. So for me, this was kind of just, kind of learning it. And, I think that if I could do it, anybody could do it. I think that the internet, there's nothing that you can't learn. I don't come from a traditional banking background. I'm not in a field where we are doing extensive research. So if you just have the ambition and the dedication to test your investment thesis, you can definitely do it as well.
You know what? I love that you said that, and that is one of the main things with the Dip a Toe Show and the Faces of Crypto in particular, is that I want somebody watching the show to go, that's me, right? And I even have one of these little things that scroll across that say, you can do this, you can learn this, right? Because a lot of times I think people refrain from learning about things because they don't think they have the capacity to understand it, or they trust the powers that be that are on television. People like to use big words and talk over your head. And let's face it, we're all working our butts off. Our time is very precious. And so a lot of people don't want to dip their toe into something that they think that others are going to look down on them and say, like, you don't know what you're talking about or whatever. And so with the digital asset space, I see a lot of people just like yourself and myself going, you know what? I've got questions and I've got resources now that I can actually ask the questions and go back and forth and get the answers. And then now I'm meeting more and more people like yourself that I can bounce my thesis off of. And it just, like, the whole world opened up. And so I love to have someone like yourself on where people can watch and go, yep, if he can do it, I can do it. I notice an accent. Got a little bit of accent there. What accent am I hearing?
We're from New York.
That's what I thought.
We're from New York.
I love it. I love it. And you don't look, you're not super old. I'm an old person. I should say, like, I'm an older person or whatever. I think it's really important to see a wide variety of folks that are involved in the crypto space, digital asset space. I see a lot of the younger ones tend to kind of be a little bit more shilly, but you're not. And so before we go deeper, we're going to go deeper on this topic later. But right now, I come across some of your videos. You're talking about utility. I want to know what utility means to you personally.
Yeah. So for me, utility is the reoccurring demand of something that actually requires a mechanical usage of something, therefore something to actually be utilized. So yes, me and Caveman and Crypto we have a show called Utility Unlocked. And for the past 27 weeks or so, the community would vote on a project and we would look into it to figure out whether or not this actually had utility. And although there are projects that, yes, solve a problem, we dive a little bit deeper into that because us as investors, we are exposed to the actual token, right? That is our exposure to it. And what you'll tend to find is it's hard to sometimes group some of these assets together because they have a different means of valuation of the token, right? The token mechanics. This is something that we dive deeper into it. So we pay attention to how is the token actually being utilized and whether or not us as investors, if this aligns with our investment thesis. So we tend to, I think all of us can kind of agree that we want a token or we want exposure to an asset that is deeply embedded into the actual infrastructure. And when it is being utilized, there is a mechanical forceage for that use, therefore kind of propelling that price forward. There are tokens out there that are just used for governance, just for voting. I would typically find those to be a weak utility or weak value capture. And there are other ones where they're required for licensing or they're required for any type of interaction with the actual blockchain. So depending on how investors want to pay attention to what we call a utility asset, I would recommend anyone to actually look at what the asset is doing inside of the ecosystem and whether or not that use case for the token inside of the blockchain, inside of that ecosystem is actually strong enough to create a reoccurring demand, therefore kind of giving us that upper hand as investors since the token is what we are exposed to.
I love it. I love it. I love it. I can't wait to talk to you more about utility because I think that is a really important part. And we do interview a lot of different projects on Faces of Crypto that have, some of them do have utility. Some of them are for marketing and branding. They have all different kinds of use cases and how they're trying to learn. And I often say we're the beta testers of all this. We're the early adopters. People are testing things out the way that they work. And so there are different people that are dipping their toes into this. If you're just a straight investor, you might not want to be investing in something that's really truly unknown, right? That doesn't offer any utility. You don't know if it's going to be around. Or you could be, this is a really cool NFT collection and I love it and I know that I'm buying this to keep for me forever and I own that. So yeah, I definitely want to talk a little bit more about utility. Caveman Dan, do you want to finish your thought before you were so rudely interrupted?
Yes. To be honest, I'm not sure what I said
I
last.
don't. I can't remember what you were on a roll.
I was probably on a
You
roll. It
you
happened.
started you said Ripple and XRP, and it was a and then they just shut your
And then
right
they cut
off.
me out. They cut his line. He's done. Yeah. Okay. So I think I was referencing the fact that I was being pulled on both directions. Is that where I was? I'm pretty sure.
Yeah, yeah,
Okay.
yeah, yeah.
And so for me, I think everyone now, even like the haters out there, everyone's come to the realization that Ripple is an absolute juggernaut in the space. Unless, of
Okay.
course, you have no eyeballs or no ears. If you have no eyeballs and ears, then you don't know that yet. But if you are that situation, maybe ask a friend. So I think everyone understands that like Ripple's here to stay. Ripple's going to be a big player in the industry. I think the disconnect now, for some people at least, is XRP and its position in this tech stack, its position in an actual utility use case. There's a lot of people out there saying, look at the ledger, look how much it's not being used. Compare it to like the Solana and the Ethereum, and you know, uh, even small use cases like Morpho, or smaller, I should say, market cap. For me, um, this is the forward thinking. Like, this is where you can't have your cake and eat it too. You can't. For me, because like one of the things that we delve into, all three of us, to be honest, all four of us, um one of the things that we delve into is the actual project, the people in the project, the what's its intent, what's its use case, what are the things that are being implemented or tested. And you can't when I say you can't have your cake and eat it too, is because you can't in one hand say Ripple is an absolute juggernaut, and then say, for me at least, and then say XRP is worthless.
Right.
Specifically when its intention is to have value capture and to move value. That's its actual intention. Beyond everything else. And they are working on a lot of other things right now. Some things that I encourage people to go and look at, because the amendments that they're currently working on are pretty powerful, and will have a resounding effect on the XRP ledger and the use case for XRP. Now, the reality is, we live in 2026. It's 2026. It's the 19th or 18th of August. We don't have regulation. We need regulation as much. And this is something that, Bully and I have kind of been thinking about and talking about. It's something that Brooke and I have talked about. The fact that, like, the cyberpunk thesis of, like, no, it's us against them. We don't need the regulations. We want DeFi. We want to be on our own. We want to do, okay, there's that in its purest form. And then there's looking at what's coming. That like absolute monsoon that's going to hit us. Well, how is that going to look? What's that going to do for the industry? And what I mean, I don't mean the industry like as in crypto. I'm talking about the financial industry now. Is there going to be a use case where crypto, and I'm not talking about just XRP, crypto in itself will be able to use, and that is also stable coins. That is also, where Brooke is probably going to talk about the network effect. I can almost guarantee it. And it is something that I also talk about a lot. And so there will be this, in my opinion, there will be this use case as things grow. But we are at the beginning. I know it's been 14 years, but we're at the beginning as far as TradFi goes.
I had a different question for you guys, but you just touched on something, and I want to get you guys' perspective on this. So you mentioned about the degen, the crypto bros, the us against them, the whole Bitcoin culture, right? They did quite a great job convincing people that you were anonymous, convincing people that, we're going to take over the world. There's going to be no regulations. We are going to just do peer to peer. And I mean, I understand We all want to do that. We all do want to have sovereignty and be able to transact with each other on a peer-to-peer basis, and not have some big government entity shutting down our wallets and all of that. However, I'm kind of wondering now. That was such an orchestrated show in the very beginning. And so, number one, when I first started dipping my toe years ago when Bitcoin first came out, to try to understand Bitcoin was so damn complicated. Anybody that was trying to explain it, it was way over my head. And I didn't buy any. I didn't let my kid buy any. And then as you progress, then it was like a very well orchestrated machine in the messaging that came out, right? And you got people, particularly, those people that rallied against the government, right? Well, meanwhile, there was a lot of people that were using blockchain or Bitcoin for nefarious things, which I think was a big fat old trap. And then all the while this is going on, you had a company, well, it wasn't Ripple at the time, but you had other big players, Hedera and the like, also working in the background, creating things. Well, the big distraction was the Bitcoin conversations. I'd like to go around the room and get your feedback, and we'll start with Brooke, and then we'll go Blockchain Bully, and then Dan.
So the question is the back and forth between Bitcoin and XRP, or
Well, I just say he was addressing the fact that Bitcoin was, when Bitcoin came out, the conversation was
Mhm.
like the degens and us against them and no government and all of these
Right.
things. And it's kind of a little bit more than, and now it's kind of all interwoven into government with government people. So
Yes.
it's kind of interesting.
And there's still Puritans out there who still want for that and hope for that. And I, by nature of being a sound money person and a sovereignty type of person, wish that could happen.
Me too.
However, I understand the history of money. I understand how money underpegs a nation's, not only their wealth, but their place in the world, and especially the dollar's place in the world. And so I knew from a fundamental level that government would never allow that to go. I find it interesting that, and I think you're right, and you touched on, I think it was very orchestrated what we saw with Bitcoin, because the last people to hop on the digital money train would be your sovereignty, freedom loving people. And so, of course, you're going to like lay that out there first, get them on board. And then it's the old bait and switch.
100%.
And our government is so good about that. And so but then in the background, very quietly, they've been building these rails that actually do something. And that's the thing I like to ask Bitcoiners. You'll see me a lot in comments with very intelligent people, very intelligent investors. A lot of them helped educate me in my macro journey, and they're on the Bitcoin train. And I'm like, what does Bitcoin do? Because outside of everyone finding it valuable, which is essentially why the dollar is valuable, because enough people say that it is in our military. But if enough people say that's valuable, it will be. That's really its only use case. So, if enough countries and presidents say it's useful, enough billionaires, people will think. But other than that, what does it do? And so that's why utility cryptos like interests me more. And do you find it interesting? For years, it'd be fascinating. You would mention XRP and you automatically, like, the trolls would come out from underneath their bridges with their sledgehammers ready to knock you over the head for mentioning XRP. only to find out in certain files that were released that we had Bitcoin and a Bitcoin Foundation people talking about not having other horses in the same race, that being XRP and Stellar at the time. So it's so fascinating. Um, it's the land of Oz out here. So, yeah, what a journey, right?
Absolutely. Blockchain bully, I'm curious of your thoughts.
I think what we're actually witnessing in real time is a narrative shift. This space kind of brought in a lot of people on a hype and a speculation train. You had the meme coiners, you had the people that were uh, heavily jumped into NFTs. But what you're starting to see is your governments, your regulators come in, and they are actually saying, wait a minute, this distributed ledger technology can actually offer us some easement, some sort of upgrade to the financial system. And you're seeing this from big names like the Bank of International Settlement, the International Monetary Fund, the World Bank. These big banking cartels, if you will, they are actually taking a look at the technology for what it is, not so much the price exposure. And I think that you have a lot of maybe retail investors that are still maybe stuck into that speculation mentality where they, like Brooke said, maybe there is a little lack of understanding, or maybe there is a threat, because when you kind of put your all into a project that doesn't necessarily uphold the utility to offer the upgrade to the current financial system, if belief is what you have that upholds that, then any other project to you is a threat, because that liquidity, that belief, that narrative that is spoken on X or whatever is taking away from your speculative project. So I think what we're actually seeing is just a shift from speculation into utility. And depending on who you listen to, whether it is influencers or your neighbor, versus what the actual institutions and what the actual traditional financial giants are saying, that's going to really dictate your perspective on what the next 5 to 10 years looks like in this space.
I love it. I totally agree. Especially the part of moving from the hopium type stuff to more solid understanding. I think we're definitely the narrative is changing. It definitely is. And when somebody believes something so strongly, we always say, do your own research in this space, and people roll their eyes and they get frustrated with it. But unless you do continue to do your own research, continue to test your own thesis and beliefs in something, you can be really let down, because things change. And like I said, we are beta testers in this. We are early adopters. We have the eyes to see, but we also have to be willing to go with what is really happening, not just our belief in something because we mortgaged our house and put an investment into something that we really didn't know. It's like taking a drug that hasn't been tested. That's nuts. Don't do it. You know what I mean? So I'm wondering what your thoughts are on this, Dan, Caveman Fantasy. What do you think?
My name says it all. The evolution of finance, right? That's what we're looking at. That's what we're watching. That's why my name is my name, by the way. Let's go back, like rewind a little bit. The XRP, the initial inception of XRP, which wasn't called obviously XRP, came from a Canadian. His name was Ryan Fugger. Ryan Fugger, who cares about XRP for a second? His family, generations ago, were the guys over in Europe who actually started the lending protocol to the kings and queens because they were in so much debt. From that moment on, our entire financial existence has been based on that one event. And There are names that we all know, families that we all know that we probably can't mention on here, who also are still involved in
To this day.
to this day into finance, um, who have buried themselves within deep within our financial system and are not going to go anytime soon. So for me, one of the things is follow the money. So if they're going to be going, if their foundations are going to be part of something, it's probably likely that we should be part of that same thing. And if you do your research and do go deep enough, you'll see that those families are part of it. And so are their businesses that they have in the Van X, in the Black Rocks, in the these are names that we all know, but are also private companies and aren't necessarily able to look behind the doors, so to speak. And this is our chance. This is our opportunity for us. This is our opportunity to be part of something that is we don't even fully understand. Doesn't matter how smart we are. Doesn't matter how much research we do. It's unfolding in real time, and for us to be negligent and not do our research and not dive deep into that is for me is mind-boggling. I don't understand it. I do not care about if I'm being honest with you, I went back to like hundreds of years ago for a reason. Because
Yep.
from that moment on, they know it's not like us saying every 100 years uh something has to change because everything falls, because this whole like Ponzi scheme we have going in economies can't last.
Right.
This isn't a revelation. They know this. They
Right.
were not taught this for a reason, because then the world as we know it would fall apart.
It wouldn't work.
But correct. So they're building out scenarios and possibilities and scenario and systems to replace. So when you say to me like, if I'm being real for a second, when I hear the whole like Bitcoin bullshit with people, I'm just like, yeah, yeah, sure. A guy in a hoodie built that with his friends in a basement, and now we've evolved and are continuing to like go down different rails with other systems that have just been by. We're so grateful. It's so amazing that someone has thought of this and that we were able to adopt it and then use it. I mean, for me, it is very um, childish to think that. I think these people are much smarter than that.
They are
And I
smart.
don't
They
and
were
not only
smart.
these people, but like I'm talking about like government officials. I'm talking about the people, the cartels that he talked about 2 seconds ago. The people in charge of the banking system, they're gonna make sure that they don't lose any money at the end of the day.
Amen to that. Yeah, I think a lot of people are starving for something better. Instinctively, they know they want something better. Hopefully, those that are early adopters will eventually stumble onto a show like a Dipito, where they don't, where they just listen with an open mind and dip their toe into some other things. But I do want to go. I want to go a little deeper now, and kind of rotate between the three of you again, and explore the pillars of the digital asset space, which I consider to be tokenization, of course, utility, and real world adoption. And I want to start with Brooke. Brooke, you're one of the strongest voices in the XRP community. You're well known, let's just say that. What do you think people misunderstand most about XRP and the broader digital asset shift that we're going through right now?
What people most misunderstand.
Yeah, what they most misunderstand about XRP. I mean, like I know, like we just got done talking about the Bitcoiners and stuff, and immediately it's the banker's coin. You're working against us. Why would you buy that? It's a shit coin.
Right.
It's a meme coin. It's a whatever. What is the? What do you think about that?
I don't understand a lot of the disconnect because now they're literally showing us and telling us the utility of this. Um, not many people have seen the DTCC's Great Collateral Experiment. That is, in that they simulate a global margin call and they list 3 tokens that help them mitigate a global financial crisis. They mention XLN, XRP, and Solana. And so now the powers that be are just coming right out and telling us. And so the people who don't understand that, I'm like, what's the misconception here? And that's like the financial space, like how many of those people don't understand that. Another thing I think is really misunderstood is how XRP is used within the system and the utility of it, and how it is a gas token. And it's very interesting that the SEC just categorized it as a commodity. And so now we have a commodity like token that's going to work like a gas fee through a financial rail system, liquidity wise. And so people, I think, really underestimate the power of that. And I think one of the big misconceptions are from very intelligent people, they still view this, the cryptos, as stocks. And right now, because it's a lot of retail driven, and we're having in like actual the powers that be come in and start to build, we haven't yet seen the actual utility completely unleashed yet for then that market to start to move like a utility market, which I think is going to look very different than what a retail market looks like. And I think it's going to F up a lot of people's technical analysis once we get this utility run. So
Oh, you're not kidding. Yeah, I don't really look at that as much because that a lot of that stuff is over my head, and I'm not trying to make money every
yeah,
week or day or whatever.
right.
I'm not a day trader. It's exciting to hear people, but again, they're just thinking this is a what do they call it, a nascent. It's like this is new, right? Like
Yes.
this has never been here before. You can compare it to certain things like you want to, like you're saying, like a stock or something. But once the full utility kicks in, I think we're going to see a much different environment than we're seeing right now. Again, we're the early adopters. It's being tested all over the place. Why would it be tested and not fully turned on at this time? Because you want to stress test that until little bits and pieces before it's ready to go, because this can't fail, right? You can't start
Right.
switching out all over these systems. And most importantly, like I want to talk to you guys, and I guess I'll go to Bully on this one. Uh, how do you see tokenization transforming everyday life? I mean, that right there, the whole tokenization. Once this utility gets turned on, things are being tokenized. It's going to be much different looking than it is now. What do you think?
I think regardless of the institutional benefits that they have, which would be 24/7 access, you have the ability for cheap atomic settlements for tokenization. I think retail also is going to benefit from this. I mean, you're talking about everything of everything eventually being represented or distributed on a chain. Now, how does that benefit people like you and me? I think one of the key indicators for that is fractional ownership of an asset. This is going to unlock a means of investments and also representation of assets where you typically would find a lot of friction with. And what I mean by that is just like a stock, how you can have fractional ownership of a stock, tokenization is also going to allow you to have fractional ownership of real estate or paintings or authentic cars. So I think the exposure out there, while also understanding that my technology is cryptographically secure, I know that I'm not going to get shamed out of my representation on my investment. I know it's transparent. I know exactly when I can get in, when I can get out. I have that ability to access it. I think for the average person, we are going to have a means of exposure into tokenization, and you may not even realize it. Okay. Whether it's tokenized bank deposits, okay, your paychecks that are going into your bank accounts, that is eventually going to be a form of tokenization. Your deed on your house, there, people are going to be unwillingly or unknowingly interacting with some form of DLT technology in regards to tokenization, and they may not even be aware of it. So they will participate into the system and not even know that they are actually benefiting or utilizing the system. And inevitably, I think where I'm going with this is I think that it's going to kind of unlock a means of convenience for the average person. Whether that's your ability to always have access to your funds, you don't have to wait 3 days for your paycheck to settle. You can, give the deed over. You could sell a house in minutes rather than weeks. That convenience is going to become normalized, and people will get comfortable with that. I think that there could be a dangerous side to tokenization in terms of personal freedoms and security and privacy, but never here nor there. I think that people will be unknowingly participating in the world of tokenization simply because the entire world went digital.
I love that. You got anything to add, Brooke?
I do actually. And when people are calculating their price predictions, they're using the world that we know right now. And as Bully was talking about, um, fractionalized ownership via tokenization, that puts a volume in this like micro little payments happening across these rails that very few people take into account whenever they are running their price calculations. So I like how he said this unlocks a completely new level to the economy machine and its value and its volume that is hard for us to contemplate right now because that industry, that commerce isn't even here yet. So just hyping that up a little bit more.
If Caveman, go ahead.
I was just gonna say, just look at the things that we do know. Things like, AI, security, insurance, just those things that they now have new outlets that we didn't have before. Sure, there are products that we had available to us, but now we have bigger, more business that can be generated just because of what I believe the onslaught of tokenization and real world assets that are about to happen. And not to mention the fact that, if a company is going to be making money off of my business because they're tokenizing it, then what kind of return should I expect as a person who owns that business? Or is there a way for us to expand that even more, which I wouldn't be able to get to otherwise because, I have a brick and mortar business and I sell teacups out of my, front door. But for me, I think there's so much potential in the tokenization and the real world assets. Are we there yet? Absolutely not. But is it being built out? Yes. And it will start with financial products for sure.
And you know what? As Brooke said, I really want to hone in on this. We are not holding stocks. We are participating and we are actually getting exposure to a network. And what I mean by that is you may have the ability to invest into Google and hold the Alphabet stock. And what you're essentially doing is you're holding a representation of that company. And if that company makes a profit, the stock is going to go up. Yes, there are many cryptos out there that are backed by companies, but we're not investing in the companies. We are investing in the network and the infrastructure. Could you imagine if you did invest into Google, right? You were holding Google's network, and every time there was a video that was uploaded to YouTube, the price went up. Every time there was a click on Google, the price went up. A Google image, every time there was a Gmail that was sent, anytime somebody actually participated in that network, you added value and the necessity for that infrastructure to actually flow. we have never seen this technology. Not only is this maybe the first time that the little guy actually got in before the big guy because of regulations, but this is the first time we are actually able to get exposure, because as the network participates and grow and there's more interactions to it, we as the token holders will get that exposure.
Man, I love this. And I'm gonna throw like just a wild question that just popped in my head, or a statement, and I'm gonna know what you think based on the look on your face. But I'm just thinking about, okay, the tokenization of all these different things. You mentioned insurance, you mentioned cars, you mentioned houses. Right now when we transact with those types of things, those are all handled in-house, right? If there's money exchanged or paperwork exchanged or whatever, it's a very slow process, and then that ledger entry, that transaction, that gets held, and then it's transacted in a lump. Over here, it's not fluid. It's not super quick. And so when you were kind of talking, Brooke, about just creating like this flywheel, this super liquid stuff, I started seeing all these things happening instantaneously. And then when you talked about agentic payments and things, I know the AI platforms are being built out to handle these things like automatically. And so like 24/7, these things are going to be happening, which then if any asset that is going to facilitate that movement of whatever it may be, that's going to make that a very useful tool, would it not?
May I just say something to couple to that? Okay.
Yep, absolutely. I don't know. I just want to know if I sounded like
No. I love what you're saying, and I think
Okay.
we're all on the same page. Here's the but, and the but is very big.
I like the but. Tell me the
Infrastructure doesn't mean price go up, and price that has nothing to do with infrastructure. The infrastructure required to build out right now is massive. We are talking about laws, regional laws, national laws, international laws. We're talking about having databases be reformed to go digital. We're talking about major issues that have to be solved. And it's very valid. So we can't expect, we have to be patient as investors to, I don't even know why I went like this, as investors, to understand the vision, to watch for the milestones, to see things unfold in real time, and not to be impatient. Because the one thing is the impatience, right? What's going to screw it up? Us eventually going,
I've had it.
I'm going to go buy Doggy Moo Moo coin. They're making money.
I need to get rich.
Yeah.
Yeah, exactly.
Well, here's a problem as well, right? You can have a project that has incredible technology. There are huge partnerships. The institutions could be using the network, but that doesn't necessarily mean that the token that doesn't necessarily mean that the adoption that is happening on that network can create demand for the token. So that's why we put such importance on actually understanding what it is that you're investing in and knowing what the token is being utilized inside of the network, because there could be billions, hundreds of trillions of dollars that could be flowing through that blockchain. And if that token mechanic for that blockchain doesn't necessarily equate to mechanical demand for that token, you're not going to see the token appreciate in the price, right? The token may be used in some areas and not used in some areas. So understanding what the token does inside of that ecosystem is just as important as tracking the partnerships, paying attention to the institutions that are utilizing the network.
Or how that token's utilized. And so there's some tokens that I believe are governance tokens, but have the intention and to be used as collateral. And so it's also like, if that token doesn't get the value capture of the movement of that, does it in a mechanism, is it used strategically within the network as collateral? How is that used? Is a very good question. And that's why I also like tuning into their show, because they're always talking about utility cryptos. What do they do? How does this token actually capture the value?
Or does it?
Or does it?
A
lot of times it doesn't.
But
That's
sometimes, and we say that, right? You guys even say that, like,
Mhm.
there's a few that come out from the DTCC and like Ondo and Canton. I don't necessarily know the how that exactly captures value, but I do know who's using it. So I'm like, here's my money.
Good question. Yeah.
I will
That's
say this too. There a token, well, like XRP, for example. You know, originally, you know, the gas token or the bridge, you know, between assets and that sort of thing. And then I think it was last year or so. Um, they've really been stressing heavily on moving to that core. What is it? Core collateral or core capital type of push. I wonder what you guys think about that, in terms of XRP being thought of something other than just simply a bridge asset, because I think it's capable of much more than
well.
just a bridge asset.
You mean like the lending protocol and things like that? Yeah. No, I mean,
Used as core collateral. Yeah,
I
exactly.
mean, so I don't have my notes in front of me,
That's okay.
but please. So the two or three of you guys, if you can help me on this one, there is a derivative market exchange called Bitnomial,
Oh, I think that
who
sounds right.
in the spring of this year approved RLUSD and XRP as collateral, not RLUSD only, RLUSD and XRP. So it's there, like it exists actually in the real world right now. Has it been executed to its fullest? Obviously not. We would all be aware of it. But yes, I think the idea of the lending protocol that's they're working on. I think there's a lot of things like, for example, Evernorth. Why haven't they, like, where's the stall there? I think the stall is on purpose.
Well, they're waiting for XLS 65 and 66 to be approved, on the XRP
Correct.
ledger. Once that becomes live, you know, you've got Evernorth and several others ready to use that to its fullest. You know, they have every intention on doing that. And so, you know, when the basket or the bucket or whatever and the lending becomes available, that's going to create something quite interesting to watch unfold, I think.
The,
Mathematically, oh,
oh, go ahead.
mathematically, it does change a lot. If you're seeing your token used as a means of collateral to be held in reserve for, depending on how and then what institutions are using that as collateral, that's a whole nother use case function to your token. And it's
Like Bitcoin.
something like Bitcoin.
That's
And
what they're doing for Bitcoin. That's what
yeah,
it turned
they,
into.
yes. So
Store of value.
whenever you, so that I will give it that full disclosure, I do not own Bitcoin. However, I will say one of the best things that it has going for it is that sovereign wealth nations are talking and starting to hold it in reserve. Very, very, very interesting. So, yay, Bitcoiners.
Exactly. So does anyone have anything else to say on that topic before I move on to something else? We got 114 people watching. Thank you guys so much for watching Dip a Toe Faces of Crypto. You are watching us either on YouTube, X, Rumble, imutv.tv,
Woo
streaming
woo.
live in over 60 countries, Facebook, Twitch. One of these days, when I reach a whole bunch of followers on TikTok, maybe I'll be able to stream live. But until then, those are the platforms that we are on. If you're not following our channel, please consider giving us a subscribe to the Dip Toe Show. I want to bring this back down a little bit. And Caveman, your content is very no fluff. And for people listening to talk, you can kind of tell. I want to know what you think the biggest misconception that beginners have when they first enter the crypto, and one mistake that you see these new investors that they keep making over and over again? Are you seeing any kind of pattern there?
Yes, and I'm going to piss a bunch of people off.
Uh-oh.
I think I would say that the number one problem is that people are listening to social media a little too much. I think the second problem is that there are good people on social media, like really good people. If you can find them, two thumbs up.
Dipito show.
That's one. The problem with a lot of people, I feel, is that they're not. I'm just gonna go off. I'm just gonna tear the band off and say it. They don't have foresight. They think that this is still a circus. They still think that it's the end. It's always been this way. It's always going to be this way. It's always going to be, Bitcoin's going to be the daddy. Whether it is or not is not my thing. I'm invested in it as well. That's it. That's all. But what I will say is the game has changed. That circus is no longer a circus. Is there a circus? Absolutely. There is, or a casino. And I think what happens is newbies are being pulled in so many directions, and it's usually by the loudest person. And that loudest person is normally going to be shilling you something or selling you something. And you're probably going to be hearing it. When you're hearing it, it's at the wrong time. When you guys were scared at like XRP going to 99 cents or 98 cents and being like, what the hell did I just do? And then instead of doing the things that, there's an old saying in investing: when there's blood in the streets, you should be greedy. When everyone else is being greedy, you should be fearful.
Yeah.
It is the same here. Yet, the second there's blood in the streets, what's the one thing that no one does?
Yeah.
We're not going to buy.
Yeah.
I'm not buying. I'm done. I've lost too much money. I sell at a realized loss.
And you'll notice those shillers will shut their mouth too.
Sure.
Yeah.
Yeah. And then what happens is, so you're like, you know what? I lost so much money on XRP, or I lost so much money on Bitcoin, or I lost so much money on Ethereum, and I thought it was going to go to like $7,000, and it didn't happen. Ethereum, and what the hell? I'm going to go to meme coins because my buddy over there, he made $2,000 last week, and I can do that. Or I'm going to go trade because I can leverage and get all my money back really, really quickly. And all of a sudden, this is what you are. You're the spinning top. And you're just going around and around and around. And you're giving away all your money to everybody else. And that's literally what happens the most.
Blockchain bully, you are on the edge of your seat ready to say something. What do you think about this?
I really think he's got it down. I think that too many people are gambling, quite honestly. I think that there's not enough calculated risk when it comes to this. We're in a very high risk, high reward market. And at the end of the day, it really comes down to your conviction. If you find your conviction based on short-term price action, you're going to get wrecked. You're going to get absolutely wrecked. There's really no easier way I can put it to you. If you're the kind of person that wants to stress test your investment thesis, then you should be doing everything in your power to make sure you did not invest into the wrong thing.
Yeah.
And the way that you could find conviction is paying attention to, it really kind of depends on your investment thesis. At least for me, my thesis is once regulations and standards come into this space, I believe that mass institutional adoption is going to result from that. And the big money, the trillions of dollars that are going to flow into the space, as Caveman said earlier, that's coming from your banks. That's coming from your traditional financial giants. So I'm watching, what are they doing? What blockchains are they building on? What pilots, what proof of concepts are they doing? Who are they working with? That for me is a means for me to say, you know what, maybe I am in the right thing. If this institution, if this entity, if this custodial has this much interest, if they're putting their reputation on their line for this Web3 company, then maybe there's something to it. Following the money is never necessarily a wrong way to go. But if that is all you are doing, if you're finding your conviction in the short-term price action, you're in for a rude awakening.
What do you say, Brooke?
Yes, for sure. That's why I do have price predictions on these, and some of them are very specific due to specific math that I talk ad nauseum about. But that is why I consider myself an educator and not a hype person. I have been saying the same thing, beating the same drum for 6 years now. And when people come to me, especially in my private life, like these are my friends. These some of them are single moms, just lost their husbands. I take education very seriously because, and I tell them it's gonna fall. Like, and they'll tell me, is this a good time to invest? And I'll be like, I don't know, because I'm of the thesis that this is going to get adopted and taken up very fast in the financial crisis that we're coming to. And so I harp on education, and anyone who talks, they just want to know, like, when is it? How much? And I'm like, wrong questions, because when it drops like it has, then you can like think of it on as being on sale, because you know what's happening in the background and what's building. The people who I talk to, I don't want them to have that anxiety. I want them to be like, oh, okay, this is a good thing. I can get it at a better price. And to have that mindset, to people who, and I don't give financial advice, but to people who I am educating this to, it's one of the most important things you can do is not pay attention to price predictions, but pay attention to the research. Pay attention. I like to say, who's your daddy and what does he do?
Huh?
Like to quote from Kindergarten Cop,
Yeah.
Arnold Schwarzenegger voice, right? And so it like, and the ones who I talk about, these are the big daddies in the financial world. And whenever you see Big Daddy playing on a certain playground, I went in on that playground, right? And so yeah, education and research.
I think DCAing, dollar cost averaging in, is the best way, particularly for people that are limited means, like myself included, right? Um, I've bought XRP at, probably 30 cents, 40 cents, all the way up to, $3. I just keep buying. I have learned from being in this space since 2019, you can't predict. There are people that say that they can, but if you are someone that just has a limited amount of money that you can invest, every time you play games holding that money and thinking that you're going to wait till it drops to this price to buy it and whatever, almost always, I don't know about you, but some shit hits the fan in my life and that money is gone, right? But if I just take my check and every week I just keep buying like clockwork, I don't even think about it. It's like I get a raise, I just invest and I just buy automatically. I don't think about it. And I look and I think, well, if I would have been doing that all along and this is how much I would have right now. But because I chose not to, what did I get? I got a little chubby because I might have went and ate too many tacos or ate pizza or what the hell ever, right? And so the whole dollar cost averaging works really well, particularly like you guys are saying. You have to do your research and you have to continue to do it. Nothing good is easy, people. Nothing, you ain't going to get nothing for free.
Correct.
This is not, Simon and I always say crypto ain't for sissies. It's not. It's for people that want to do their homework. You got to stay in it to win it. You might have found a cool coin that you thought was awesome and you got to attach to some folks, and then they tried their best and it didn't do well, or it got incorporated into something else. It got bought up or whatever. You have to still give this stuff your attention. Unless you're doing, like you say, the big daddies, but even the big daddies can fail. So you really need to stay on top of it, like you're investing in something for real, right? For real, for else, or whatever. It's the whole dollar cost averaging thing. I can't stress it enough. And the communities, like you say, the shillers are out there. Don't let them get you. They're fun to listen to. They do make you laugh sometimes, but you really do need a community of folks. And we try really hard on Dipito to present you with folks that we vet and we feel comfortable that are giving good information. And Brooke and Dan and Blockchain Bully, you guys are all out there trying to educate people and get them to think for themselves. That is one of the most important things that you can do. That's a gift that you give others. So hats off to you. If anybody has anything else to say on this topic, otherwise I'm going to move on a little bit deeper into some utility talk. What do you say?
I'll go back to one thing we were talking about earlier.
Okay.
I'll keep the other thing because you'll probably touch on it, I think. The one thing we're talking about was like you don't own stocks. We all three, four of us said the same thing, right? We don't own stocks. We do not own stocks. Stocks were created back in the day when the railroad companies was trying to, figure out how to make money. That's literally how it was started. Now, so what do we have? Bully said it perfectly. We have a token. We have a token that's part of the infrastructure, right? And now, so how do you evaluate that? And that's the one thing that like we talk about on our show at the very end when we're trying to give like a score, an arbitrary score of the project. And it's crazy because Bully and I are usually very close to like our scores, but I use 3 economic models. I use Brooke's favorite. Go ahead.
Metcalfe's law.
There you go. Which is the network effect. So how much do you interact with other networks? How much eyes do you have on it? How many people can be part of it? And you build up that effect, and then therefore the value of your potential network and its tokens. The second thing we do is TVL. So essentially, much like the stock market, I should say. And then the velocity, and then it's the velocity model, which is how much does it just, do you hold on to it, or is it passing through your hands very quickly? And I think those are models that give more of a grounding into what we hold. And I believe this is what I believe. I believe that there will be in the future, there will be a new way of evaluation. And this isn't me that came up with this. This is people much smarter than myself. But I think they're more than likely going to have some sort of new way to evaluate a project more based on that, as opposed to an antiquated model, which is like, how many tokens are out there? What's the price? And then what's the market cap? You do not own this thing. So that actually, you might as well just say, how many blue pills and how many red pills. It is the same thing in essence. We only use this because it's the only thing that's available. It's the one thing that's recognized throughout most of the traditional financial systems. But this isn't the traditional financial system. This isn't a stock. This isn't ownership in a company. And I love that we're on the brink of seeing the new way of finding value in these projects.
By the way, market cap bros cannot conceive what he just said. They can't for the life of them. That's all.
That's a quick
Market cap
IQ
bros.
test in this space. When you get the market cap bros,
there are
way to know.
institutions that are currently working on this, by the way. So like it is happening. It's just not universal right now.
Great.
What is your method, Bully? That he said it differs slightly from his own, and how you evaluate. Do you stray, or using a similar testing for your opinion, your score?
A large part of my score really has to do with the value capture model to the tokens. And I think that I really try to hone in on my research on understanding what the token actually does inside of the ecosystem. Some of these tokens, they're used to pay transactions. Some of them are used for security, governance, collateral, even settlement. But you have to understand what your token within your particular investment is actually doing inside of the ecosystem to see whether or not it has a strong or a weak value capture model. And what I mean by that is a strong value capture model is is kind of the way that as the network is going to continue to grow, the more people use it, then the demand for that token that we are all holding is going to benefit from that adoption. Something that I would consider a weak value capture means that the technology could grow without actually creating any kind of demand for the actual token. And we see that in projects that have like extremely cheap fees. The token is sometimes optional, and or companies can actually use the network without having to buy or hold the token that we are actually investing in. So I try to really kind of tell people you have to separate the token from the project or the token from the big company behind it. Because the project could have great technology, there could be massive adoption and massive partnerships, but if that token has a weak value capture, then it might not be something you're interested in doing, right? And for example, like Ondo, Canton, I think they're fantastic projects. There's a lot of adoption going on. I think they're fantastic projects. In terms of what the tokens actually do inside of that ecosystem, I don't want to hold it. And I hold Ondo. But once I really started to understand it, I stopped DCAing into it. So
I know people are going to ask this question, so I'm just going to say it out loud. I have heard people say the same thing about XRP because why? Because they did create it so that you don't have to use XRP, right? They get for their on demand, the Ripple payments and that sort of thing. And so people hearing you say that, I know are going to say, well, yeah, what about XRP? How does that differ in your opinion? And actually, I can't believe we're at 9:25. I have so many questions for you guys. But one of the things I definitely want to do before we get out of here is I want your feedback on that. I want to know whether you think mass adoption is going to happen slowly or quickly. And then I definitely want your opinions on this XRP. In general, because you guys have done a lot of research, not just on XRP itself, but on other blockchains and coins. And so this is a perfect intro to that in terms of why do you see XRP different than you see Ondo or some of these other coins? Why is that different?
I'll jump in first, and then I'd love to hear what my co-hosts have to say. Yes, I think XRP has fantastic utility. The question really is the value capture to it. The way that I see it is that XRP potentially can have a strong value capture, but it depends how it is being utilized in the system. Okay. As more money is going to move through XRP, more liquidity would be needed. Therefore, you need demand for the token. The weakness is that the transaction fees are small, and that institutions can also use Ripple's ecosystem, whether it's the stable coins or the XRP ledger, without having to utilize XRP, right? So a misconception is that when you, especially within the XRP communities, they may see these partnerships and they think that it's going to create demand for the actual token, but that's not always necessarily the case, right? XRP's value capture, it can be strong, but only if XRP is actually being used for the liquidity or the settlement, right? So you really have to pay attention to these partnerships and what exactly are they using.
I like that answer, and I agree. What do you think, Dan?
You're muted.
I'm muted?
No, I heard her.
Really? Oh, shoot.
She's asking for your opinion.
I'm
Okay.
asking for your opinion.
For some reason you're muted for me now, but I'll answer it. My answer comes with two words, and you asked for XRP directly, so XRP addresses this. I don't think it's just XRP, just so we're clear. But for XRP, this is addressed. It's addressed with two words. It addresses two words: Triffin dilemma. So what is the Triffin dilemma? Triffin dilemma is the fact that you have a world reserve currency that, or supposed to, backed up, I guess, by Japan as well. But that's beside the point. The fact that we now realize that we can't. You have two options. You can continue to buy other people's resources and therefore lower your economy, or you can start throwing out more money, print money, throw it out there so everyone keeps using it. Those are two options. And eventually there's no option. Eventually you're like, I need to either bring back everything to home and worry about our economy and build our economy up, or I have to stop giving everybody else our money because it's not worth anything. You might as well be playing Monopoly at this point, and that's where we're at, right? So what does the digital currency technology potentially solve? It solves the ability, and this is the actual genius act part of things. It allows you to two things, but the first thing that no one wants to talk about is it allows you to spread your debt across the entire world. That's probably the real genius part. But the second genius part is that it allows you to create a fluid world currency, right? So I hope that there were a lot of CBDCs. I hope that there were a lot of stable coins. Give everybody a stable coin. I hope everyone creates a stable coin, because the reality is I don't want blockchain bully stablecoin, and I don't want Brooke's stablecoin. I want my stablecoin because
Yep.
I want to keep my value locked in my economy, and so which is the same for Canada and U.S.
Yep.
and Brazil and Japan and whatever other country you want to mention. So the idea is to have a neutral asset that will have enough liquidity in its pools that will bring in whatever stablecoin you want, transfer it over right away, and then done. That's it. Take and but what people think is it's like, oh, okay, well then that doesn't have any value because it's always transferred. This is happening all day, every day, at an amount that we can't even really fathom. And that's where the value will come. The problem, but we go back to what I said before, which is infrastructure has to be laid out. You have to people do businesses with people they know, trust, and like. And trust and like is very, very, very important. And so here's what you do, much like a drug dealer. Here you go. Here's your freebie. Here's our technology. Go use our technology. Do you like our technology? Great. Keep using technology. What else can you give us? Oh, we can give you this. What else can you give us? We can give you this. What else can we give you? Well, you know what? We have this thing called like XRP, and like we can actually just do this internally, and it's gonna save you a whole bunch of money, and it's gonna be really, really fast. What? Yeah, we had it back a while ago. You just didn't want to listen to me because you didn't trust me. That's what they're building out. This is what not just them, but a lot of networks, a lot of companies, a lot of blockchains. So I can't hear you. Do you want me to log back in?
I love that answer. I don't know. You maybe come back. Brooke, can you hear me?
I can hear you.
Yeah, I
Or
wonder
can
why
you
you
hear
couldn't
me?
hear me. I love what he just said. I want to know your opinion on that.
Okay, so we are talking about the fact that you don't have to use XRP in the XRPL in a lot of these transactions, and people use that as a negative towards XRP. However, that is part of the genius of XRP and the reason why it can be considered as a neutral bridge asset. Uh, I won't go into the nerdy research of that because Caveman touched on some of that with the Triffin dilemma, which brings us up to today and your other question of whether you think that this technology is going to be fast. And I don't want to just regurgitate everything that Caveman said, but this goes along with my thesis and what we're seeing right now with Japan and the financial predicament that they are finding themselves in. And you heard me reference earlier the DTCC's project called the Great Collateral Experiment, of which they literally, the DTCC did a whole simulation where it was a video, like they made a whole video and they walked you through. They made a simulated company called Margin Call, I believe was even the company's name, and they simulated, oh, we have, the Bank of England's in trouble, oh, we need to unlock capital here and move it here, and so this, and I had assumed, but I was like, let me go consult Chat GPT and let me just ask it. I said, with the predicament happening right now in Japan, should that continue to unravel, would a project like the DTCC's Great Collateral Experiment come into play in this type of scenario? And it said, yes, that is exactly the type of scenario that the DTCC would be pointing to, specifically in terms of when collateral needs to be unlocked, when the global financial system has a margin call or a 2008 type of event, it's like the body. If your body and you have the circulatory system, a margin call is much like a stroke or a heart attack happening in the body. And what the DTCC would be doing in the background, with this digital technology, is like putting in stents and releasing the blockage so then the blood can start flowing through again. And so that's the like, we talk about XRP a lot because that's its bread and butter. It has this thing called, that it used to call on-demand liquidity, which in a global financial liquidity crisis might come in handy. So I personally think that the adoption of crypto is going to come at breakneck speed because the financial system needing it to unblock some heart attacks and some strokes.
Man,
There's a lot in the system.
That was
you
a great way to put it.
You
That
are
was
Thank
you
you.
absolutely nailed it. I have so many things popping in my head. I'm just gonna admit it. Yeah, those who watch the show know I'm an old school queuer. Okay, I think a lot of the
Yeah.
Q posts had everything to do with the financial system, and most people that were studying Q completely missed it. However, the watch the water, Ripple, all of these things, you're saying heart attacks can be deadly. There was the whole scare event necessary. Okay, we know there is going to be a huge scare event that's going to happen. It is going to be financial. And XRP is positioned, like you're saying, as the bridge to open up those pathways. Okay, and maybe they're running little tests on it now. My name's World Be Free. I want the world to be free. I want the sovereign. I want countries to have their own currency. They have the rules and everything for their country, but I want them to be able to transact with whoever the hell they want, and instantly, without somebody having the thumb over top of them telling them, we're going to shut you off if you don't do this and you don't do that and all of this. XRP is such a threat. XRP Ledger is such a threat to the way the old system was created, because this gives them sovereignty. All they had to do was trust and believe, and it's taken many years for them to do it. But you can see country after country opening up their doors, opening up everything, and beginning to do that and having that trust. And so, I got goosebumps with you talking, because it's like, I'm like, oh my gosh, this is exactly what I think. So you think that when mass adoption comes, it's gonna be quick.
Yes, and I'll add on to that with stable coins, and this is where stable coins come into play in this type of financial crisis that we're going to have. It's a very different financial crisis than 2008. 2008 happened centered around the housing market. This is a sovereign debt crisis, of which we have started to see the first fiat currencies start to crumble. And so this is something, if you want to go research more, that a macroeconomist coined. His name's Brett Johnson. He coined it. He coined this concept called the dollar milkshake theory. And what I think is happening with stable coins is, now because of the Genius Act, stable coins have to be backed 1-to-1 with a treasury bond. And so, if you're following, one of the reasons why the US had to step in and do the intervention was because their currency is collapsing. They're the largest holder of the US bonds. They're going to have to unload US bonds in order to prop up the yen. Well, America didn't want them to do that. So we're extending all of these emergency measures to keep that from crumbling. But it's not going to work. And you're going to start to see not just the Japanese yen, but other currencies start to crumble. As the currencies start to crumble, they're going to start to rush to safe assets like gold, like silver, but also the US dollar. It's interesting also in the news, we have the auditing of Fort Knox by Rand Paul, who is a adamant sovereign or um, healthy money type of background. And he said the money's all there. And so much like 1933, I could see as because our fiat currency and our government is in a sovereign debt crisis as well. I can see us now backing, revaluing gold. It sits at Fort Knox at $42, where it's at market, it's over like 4,000, like $300. So you're talking our on our asset books, we have something that's already undervalued. And historically, we've done this before. We've bought gold back and revalued it. Well, why not revalue it and peg it back to the dollar? And so now the dollar is even a safer asset because we had this repegging of this valuation of gold, but because of tokenization, a basket of other currencies, because now we can tokenize our land. Now we can tokenize just about everything on our asset books and peg it to our currency. So I think that that is another massive financial shift, and stable coins and tokenization plays a role that I don't think a lot of people are talking about.
Whew. Dipper-toers, you got some education today. I'm just saying. Holy smokes! I hope this is a good thing about this being a recorded show. You can go back and watch. You can get a little clip and like the little mic drop moments. It's like holy smokes. But here's the thing: you listen to these folks talk, and they put out some different good points. Put those good points into Chat GPT or Grok or any other thing, and say, "Is this chick? Is she telling the truth? What do you think about this?" And then you ask that in your own way of asking the question, and go, "Is she smoking crack or is she onto something?" Right? I mean, you can totally be frank, and you're gonna get some answers back, right? You're gonna get some answers back in your own language, and so I mean, you guys are all offering such wonderful, just pieces of information for people to bite on. Anybody have a fired up response for what Brooke just said? We got about 15 minutes or so left. Anybody wanna add on to anything she said?
It's just the crack talking.
Yeah, it's just the crack talking, guys. Uh,
No, it was a great response.
I mean, absolutely fire, absolutely fire. So okay, I want to know if you guys think then, so we've talked about utility and tokenization and all of that. At the end of the day, anybody that has been in this space for a long time, you've heard the whole statement of like 99% of cryptos are going to go away. There's only going to be a few because there's thousands of them out there. I'm curious for you guys. Like we know there's all this regulation. I would like your thoughts on the regulation and the feasibility of things getting passed within 2026. But before I ask that question, I want to know if you think utility is going to be the deciding factor on which projects are actually going to survive regulation. Because there's a lot of people, a lot of projects out there playing play right now, thinking they got it licked. They're, making money, they're scamming, they're doing all this stuff, and they're nothing but vaporware, they're nothing but, pretend stuff. What do you think are going to survive this regulation when it comes in it's nailed down? What do you guys think? We'll start with Caveman, Blockchain Bully, and then we'll go to Brooke.
I think the people who are pretending to be something they're not will have no place. There are projects, one most recently, where we're like, this coin, the project is fantastic. What was the project?
Yeah.
Bully? Do you remember the project?
Canton.
No, really, just now, last week. Okay. The project we recently did, I also forget. Horrible. We literally were like, the project is fantastic. However, um, it has no utility. Like the coin itself, at best, is a governance token. It is not needed for this project at all. And I think those projects, like a lot of those, will fall by the wayside because the project itself will either be acquired or it'll be assimilated with something else, or people will just realize, you know what, like, or else some will be a commodity, some will be a security, and what kind of repercussions will that have? But I think, if I'm being honest, I think the ideas of like meme coins and collectibles, that they will always be here. So like when you're referring to 99% are going to go,
Yeah.
I actually don't think, I think there is a use case for those, um, because not everybody has eyeballs on their ecosystem. They need to find ways to trap liquidity or to extract liquidity, I should say is a better term of saying that, and bring it into their ecosystem and build their, their user base and attract devs and all the fun stuff that they need to do to try to create enough value to be able to create something else, hopefully. Or there's going to be some that are just going to be like, thieves in the night and then will come and go. But I think for utility, I think a lot of those people are going to have a problem. A lot of those projects will be a problem. But the meme coins, the circus, the gambling, I think they will always stay. It exists right now in our real life.
Yeah.
Go to get the pink sheets in the stock market. They've been here forever,
The
right? Like
penny
pink sheets,
stocks and whatnot.
penny
Yeah.
stocks, like
Yeah.
they exist, and then casinos exist, like and collectibles like Pokemon cards and
Which are
like
all
they're
valuable. I mean,
fantastic.
yeah, they
Yeah,
are. Yeah.
yeah. No, so like I'm saying there's going to be a case for everything, but when adoption actually happens,
Yeah.
I would be concerned for some utility projects for sure.
Yeah, I agree. I got so much to say. Blockchain bully, what do you think, sir?
I actually do think that a majority of crypto will eventually disappear as regulation kind of deepens here in the United States and around the world. The truth is, there is probably millions of projects by now, if not hundreds of thousands, if not millions. Most of them have no real world purpose. Most of them have no meaningful adoption. Most of them cannot comply with standards or any type of regulations. Um, and I think that the projects that are kind of created to raise money or to fuel that speculation, I think that regulations will kind of force those projects to prove what are they actually doing, right? Who is controlling them and whether or not they are legally compliant. If they're not, then they're going to be flagged as high risk. I don't think a lot of speculative money is going to go into it. I think that when you're looking at the trillions and trillions of dollars that these conglomerates control, they're going into highly regulated, highly standardized blockchains and DLTs. I don't know if the exact number is going to be 99%. But I really do believe that only a small percentage of cryptos are actually going to survive long term, as long as they have a role inside of this new financial system that is developing.
Thank you for that. Brooke, what are your thoughts on this?
So I'm in the middle. Regulation can go one or two ways, but it also depends on how industry adopts it. And they make a good point, both of them. We have meme stocks right now, and that, no one besides for your normal regulation regulates those. So I think there's going to be some sort of element to m- some sort of meme stock. Unfortunately, I don't do meme stocks. Um, I think a lot of tokens, like Bully said, will go away because regulation will automatically negate them. They won't be legally able to operate to any meaningful capacity. But what's going to be very interesting to watch is how industry adopts NFTs and adopts the whole culture, especially as I think about restaurants and how we're moving on to apps. Well, what better way for, customers to almost have attached to your app and a wallet attached to that app, an NFT type of reward program or love that they already have, but can also be better utilized and tracked via the blockchain and crypto. With that, I think we're also going to the reaches of which industry can utilize it is going to be determined a lot by either regulation or industry saying, hey, we would like to utilize the technology like this, but we need rules for the road. Or is that not even possible? There's even projects, like we talked about Pokemon. We collect Pokemon and we learned, how they had that Pokemon to go
Yep.
type of thing, which now we know it was literally scanning landscapes and like this
So
completely
smart.
not cool, guys. Read the disclosures, right? But even there's a company that imagine like sitting at a basketball game. We have Thunder here, and they drop things from a little, airplane thingy that comes across. Imagine like holding up your phone and capturing like different, NFTs like you do the Pokemon Go. So many of these concepts that can be used and utilized in industry that we're going to have to wait for regulation or for industry to be like, hey, can we do this? And so it's going to be very interesting to see chicken, egg, how we get to use this, because it's really exciting to imagine the type of future we can build on top of it.
I will tell you, after doing this show for almost 3 years now, and having the different folks come on, the builders on the XRP ledger, I started in Bitcoin. I didn't hear so much about the people that were building on Bitcoin, right? They were just how to educate people. It was all about educating people, and that sort of thing. But when I stumbled upon the XRP family and started really diving deep into XRP ledger and the tools that are there waiting for folks to use, the small businesses that could come out of it, and the fact that you can use it for pennies on the dollar. It doesn't cost a lot for a small business person to tokenize their own business and figure out ways to use the ledger. And when you think about them tying that to the price of XRP, because when you create your NFT, or if you create your coin or token or whatever, it's tied to XRP. And so as XRP goes up in value, if you play your cards right and you do it you build according to the regulations, the expected regulation, you do things like a business-minded person, right? Let's not just be somebody that's going to try to do this. There are so many people in the world that could actually do that. That adds value also. It locks up XRP because it's tied to it. So these AMMs and things like that, where people are creating these and they're pairing it up, putting up their XRP to match it, and all of these things. As we learn more about these types of things, I could see where retail actually gets to play a pivotal role in the solid foundation and pricing of XRP, not just these main institutions. Obviously, the main institutions, the big time dollars that are going to come in, it's great. But like Dan said in the beginning, or maybe it was Bully that said, this is our opportunity, the little guys, for the first time in our life, to be on the ground floor of something and make like a huge decision for our family. And so I wanted to know if you guys see what I see in terms of the XRP ledger, and the people that are building on it. Maybe not just NFTs, but other ways of trying to figure out how to tokenize their businesses and that sort of thing. And we've got a couple, maybe 5 minutes or whatever. So we got like about 1 minute each. If anybody has any thoughts on that, I'd love to hear it.
Well, you wanted to ask the question, and the question you wanted to ask was, what do we think is going to happen for the vote? Like, are we gonna have clarity?
Yeah.
That was going to be one of your questions. You want to end in that?
Yeah. Sure.
Okay. Do you want me to be the controversial person first, or you guys want to do it? Okay, I'll say it.
You for
Um,
once.
uh, I hope it doesn't pass.
Oh, really?
I want it to pass. I want crypto to be adopted. I want trillions of dollars to flood the ecosystem. I do want those things. I just want it in a with an administration that is willing to put the law and the people first.
Oh.
I in its current setup with the current administration, I do not see any. I do not see a positive outcome, and that scares
Really?
me. Yeah.
Really, I'm
Mm.
actually shocked to hear that,
I know.
but
I
yeah,
want.
but I understand because it has. I will say this to you. The only little pushback that I will say on this Dan is I think that what we have been watching unfold for the past many years, it is a great big show. We know that the system has needed to change, and so you have folks in certain positions of power that are playing a role.
Agreed.
Everyone's playing a role. There are people that problem, reaction, solution, and the like, all of it. And so, yeah, I don't know. I don't know if I agree with you on this specific administration being at fault. What I do think this administration is doing is bringing these things to the forefront. You can't have people in governmental positions
Agreed.
raping the public and making all these things. And I think a lot of these people in these administrations, no matter whether it's Biden from before making crazy stuff, now the Trump administration, people getting away with certain things, and having the people go, you can't do it. And I think that that's part of the story.
They're all bad.
We're all supposed to be pushing back on this.
They're all
So
bad.
yeah,
All I want is for the bull in the china shop to continue, break everything,
yeah,
so there's no option.
yeah,
Open up Pandora's box enough so that we can't go back,
yeah,
which I think is happening. And then I'm hoping that the next administration, red or blue, don't care, uh, is more like for the people. More, I mean, listen, they're always going to want to profit. They're always going to want to make money. I understand that. I'm. You'd be naive to think it's not going to happen to red or blue, but pull back a little bit. Give us a resemblance of like the greater good.
greater good. Blockchain bully, you got 1 minute. What do you think?
I gotta disagree with my Canadian friend over there. Actually, I think this technology is moving faster than the laws, and I think that in and of itself is dangerous. Not only is us kind of delaying this legislation going to therefore push these monopolies and these companies and these investment groups somewhere else, whether that's Europe, Singapore, the Middle East, Asia, wherever they go. Not only is that bad for this, but you have these institutions where they're already exploring the tokenization and stable coins and the settlement and the collateral, but they don't have those compliant rules that can explain how they can safely do that. Do I think that they're going to take the riskiest way to do it? No, probably not. But what is more dangerous, whether that's pushing the innovation offshore or these institutions that are testing atomic settlement on billions and trillions of dollars worth of your and my dollar versus, when you talk about protecting the common person, when this technology is moving faster than the laws or regulations, I think that that's actually ultimately a larger threat than anything else. I think if you really do want to protect the people, yes, you should write these rules and regulations in a fair, concise way, but we don't have an option. It has to get pushed through.
Let's go. Brooke, what are your thoughts on this?
So I think that the Clarity Act, I will agree. I'm politically agnostic now, atheist. I really, they're just both awful. I think that the Clarity Act is being held up, and that's all done by show, much like the lawsuit was with XRP. I believe that this is all orchestrated and planned and will all pass whenever they think it will want to pass. I will say on Caveman's point, what I think that the Trump family specifically, not the administration necessarily, but by default, the administration. I don't know how many people have heard about the Medici family. And for a while now, I'm like, I think that Trump and his family and what he's doing, especially with World Liberty Fi, is a lot like the Medicis and getting their claws in early into a brand new financial system to be one of these elite families added to the other 13 that we have. Yay. But what's interesting, especially with the geopolitical conundrum we find ourselves in, notice that his coin is called World Liberty Finance. That dude, like him or hate him, he's a real estate mogul. He builds things. I am speculating that that project, that especially with seeing that they gave a licensing for certain banking licenses, it'll be
For
very
many people.
interesting to see after all of this that what he does after making a crumbling, making things go kaplooey across the world. Be looking for him to utilize that in upcoming financial deals.
Oh
So
my God, you guys, it's 10 o'clock. I can't believe it's over. You hit it. Guys, look up the Medici family. I agree with all the stuff that you guys just said. You got to look into it. The whole fact, I mean, they want to be the fuggers, Caveman. They want to be the fuggers.
Meet the fuggers.
Meet
Those
the fucking
motherfuckers.
fuggers. I'm just saying. I hope everybody enjoyed themselves this evening. If you guys can come to the After Dark space, it'd be fantastic. If not, I totally understand. I would love to have you back to continue this conversation. This was great. Absolutely phenomenal. Thank you to everybody that's watching the show. Shit, we're gonna be late, but like 30 seconds, go around, tell people how they can find you, where they can find your work, because I think it's important. Let's go, Brooke, Caveman Bully. Let's do it.
You can find me mainly on TikTok. Don't look at my content. I just mainly do lives when I feel like it, and then I'm on X some. So
All right, I'll post the link in the comment.
yeah.
Caveman, how can they find you?
You can find me on TikTok predominantly. I'm also on X, but we have a show called Utility Unlocked, and that's on YouTube and TikTok. Sundays at 8 p.m.
Let's go, Black.
Yeah, I'm primarily on TikTok as well. I have a YouTube channel, and we co-host Utility Unlocked, which is also on YouTube. So thank you so much for having us.
Oh, you're welcome.
Thank
I
you,
love you
Lisa.
guys. It was fantastic. One of my favorite shows ever. I can't wait for you guys to come back. I will see everybody later tonight, 10:10. Be there, be square. Have a good evening.
Welcome and hello. Let's chat about the things that we'd like to know. With Simon and Melissa, you feel right at home. Talking crypto, maybe you should just dip your toes. You laugh and you love where the community grows. On the Dipito Show.